Hello and welcome back to Off Track Podcast with me, Dave Neal. This week, it's our 2025 Bennetts British Superbike season preview. And here to join me along for the ride is TNT Sports commentator for the British Superbike Championship and great friend of mine, Steve Day. We're going to go through the runners and riders, give our predictions for the end of the season, which really isn't going to be very easy at all. But before that, make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy what we do. Every single like and subscribe really helps the channel grow and keeps us bringing you great content like this one. That's enough from me. Let's get on with it. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 Bennetts British Superbike season preview with Steve Day. Enjoy. Oh, is that all right to start now? Ladies and gentlemen, a massive welcome to the show, or welcome back to the show even, because it's been a while and this is probably our fifth or sixth, I think, in total over the last 11 or 12 years. Steve Day, welcome back to Off Track, mate. How are you? Great to see you.
Yeah, I'm very well, Dave. Thanks. Yeah, it's been a while. We were just chatting a minute ago trying to work out the last time we'd done this, because I think there was a period over the course of about 2 years where we did quite a lot. And then, we think we've worked out it's at the Isle of Man in 2022. So coming up for 3 years ago since we last had a chat. But yeah, I'm well. I've been listening to pretty much every single podcast you've done since then. So nice to be back.
Thank you. It's sort of clawing at the door to say, hang on, when is it my turn? We don't get a chance on the BSB weekend, do we? You're absolutely flat out. I'm sort of here, there and everywhere. And finally, we've managed to make it work, mate. So thank you.
No, not a problem at all. I mean, I've just been waiting for you to sort of scrape the bottom of the barrel to give me a call after your long line of wonderful guests. So
I look at it the other way. I look at it as building the audience for you. I can put a spin on that, mate. Don't you worry about that.
How are you anyway? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good.
This is very 250, kind. Isn't it? Episode 250.
This is episode 250. Well remembered. I hadn't even made a note of that. Well remembered, mate. Yeah. Welcome to our quarter century of episodes, mate. What? It's mad how it's gone. Absolutely crazy. Here we are after however many episodes it was on MotoPod, then to do 250 of our own on Off Track it's just mad. It really is.
Well done to
Somebody's going to catch up with us at some point.
Have you got any pyrotechnics or?
Funny you should say that. I have somewhere, but I can't remember what these pads do.
That's not quite what I was hoping for or expecting. Oh, there we go.
You see.
I wish I'd never asked.
Well, you asked, I can deliver. I've got my little machine next to me, so it's all right. But what have you been up to, mate? You had a busy year last year. You've got another busy year this year. It's not just our wonderful BSB on TNT this year that will hear your dulcet tones. You're here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, I'm doing some work for TNT on MotoGP. So that came about last year. As you well know, MotoGP is such a long season. And I think that over the course of sort of 2022 rounds, they'd sort of worked out that they might need some cover from time to time for Gav, because he was doing every single session, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So initially it sort of, they asked if I could just be there as cover if Gav was ever ill or anything happened. And I said yes. And that sort of morphed into, would you mind covering some free practice sessions? And would you mind coming to a couple on site? And then for one reason or another, because of Nat having a baby last year, and obviously everything that's going on with Sylvan and Luca, they were missing a few people last year. So I ended up doing, I think it was 10 on site for them last year, and 16 GP weekends in total. And I'm doing some more for them this year. Literally, as we speak, I got back from Jerez last night. I managed to get out of the country before they had a blackout. Which is crazy. There were some people who weren't quite so lucky in our team. And I'm going to be doing 4 or 5 on site for them this year, but it's a little bit more, fingers crossed, relaxed for me, because last year I probably bit off a little more than I could chew. I did all of BSB, the TT, and then MotoGP, and I think it was something like 32 weekends from March to November, which I was just ruined by the end of the season. So I'm still going to have a busy one. but not quite as busy. Got some spare weekends to spend time with the family and stuff. So yeah, but looking forward to it. Yeah, it's good.
A bit more balance in life.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever get the balance right. I think it's impossible. I've been commentating now since 2008, and been inside the paddock since 1998. And I think every year I always think to myself, well, I've got to try and get the balance right of this and I just don't. I don't think there'll ever be a time where I'm like, yeah, I've hit the sweet spot there. But we're very lucky to do what we do. Say that all the time. So I'm certainly not complaining. But yeah, you've got to get that balance right, because there is a life outside of bike racing sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, not very often. But no, it's good that you got a slightly more positive balance this year. That's good, because I know when we were talking at the end of last year, it was like you there was enough, and you've got to still enjoy what you do. And like you say, we are privileged to do what we do. You so for the TV side of it, me for a sort of a smaller version of the same sort of thing with the podcast. We're in a privileged position, but it's still hard work, and it's still a job at the end of the day. So you do need that separation from it from time to time.
Yeah, you do. You've got to have. And I mean, I'm quite lucky because back here at home, other than my dad, who's obviously an avid bike fan, I don't talk about bike racing to anyone. My wife's not interested one bit. Sort of promptly tells me to leave my ego at the door whenever I arrive back with my suitcase. My friends and I don't ever really talk about it. They bring it up occasionally, but we always just talk about football because I love football as well. So we won't talk about that. And yeah, so it's quite nice to have that break from it. And then whenever I go to an event, I get in the car, I listen to a podcast, and get myself back in the zone. And yeah, all is good.
And away you go. I mean, at least you were party to the celebrations of the Premiership being secured on Sunday, weren't you? So I suppose you played a bit of a part in that, did Tottenham Hotspur?
Thanks, Dave.
Well, yeah, it's just nice to be at the. You were at the party.
Hey, we survived relegation. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, that's the way we play, mate.
It is exactly that. It's exactly that. But better luck next season.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll see you. Maybe we won't. We've got the playoffs to go through. But before we lose a whole load of viewers and listeners and talking football, I know so there are some out there that enjoy the football, but we know there's a bit of a stigma attached to it as well. So let's get into what we're here for. The 2025 Bennetts British Superbike Championship kicks off this weekend at Oulton Park, and it's about bloody time. It's been the longest off season ever.
My God, honestly, Oulton Park, obviously coming up this weekend. Really looking forward to it. And I spoke to Whit a few days ago because he was at the Donington test, and we were both saying it feels like a year since that unbelievable finale at Brands in October last year. Yeah, too long for me. I get why they've done it, but I just feel like it is a little bit too long to start. And we've all been itching, and I mean, everyone's desperate to go out. The weather's lovely at the moment as well, so I'm really hoping that we don't lose that before we get racing. But yeah, it does feel like a really long time to get going. But the great thing is now we are going to start. We've got 11 brilliant race weekends from here until October, and I mean, I cannot see, looking at the list of entries, how it's going to be anything but really exciting. I mean, the last two seasons we've had have been spectacular, and yeah, I was taking another glance at the entry list before we did this, and it's just, where do you stop? I mean, we could be going for some time talking about the contenders and who's got a part to play. And I mean, let's be honest, even with no racing, there's been plenty to talk about.
There's been a huge amount through, especially once the season turned from 2024 to 2025 over Christmas and the New Year. We had the TNT side of things that Stuart explained so well on the podcast back at the beginning of March. We've had the OMG racing. We're not racing. We're back. There's been the FHO disappearance from the championship for whatever reason. There's been so many things for Stuart to deal with this side of Christmas that I think what it's going to end up being is potentially one of, I know we've had two really good championships, but it's been kind of the same three riders. It's been Tommy, Glenn and Kyle, or Tommy and Glenn. But now you throw in other riders into the mix with each with a point to prove. and with five individual teams plus the factory Honda, there's so many sub-stories this year, I think more than ever before.
Yeah, and also what's quite nice is the majority of riders have actually had some decent test time as well. We've had a few seasons in the past where, they've not had enough dry track time to get themselves ready. And I know that some of the teams, because of all of the situations off track have been difficult, haven't maybe tested as much as they wanted to. And I suppose one of the benefits of starting later in the year is that we have got this. Had we started earlier in the season, maybe we wouldn't have some of these teams on the grid. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's looking like it's such a hard act to follow when you think of what has happened the last two seasons. I mean, I didn't think 2023 could be beaten, and then 2024 comes along. But it does look like a mouth-watering prospect when you run through the list of riders. And every year at the start of the year, Josh Close from MCN contacts me and a couple of other people to ask us for our predictions to go into the paper. And I've actually asked him if I could be removed from it this year for a number of reasons. And what number one reason is, I don't know. I change my mind genuinely every single day. And all Josh gives me, you swine, is three choices of the top three and a dark horse. Well, you could fit 6 riders into that top 3 easily and more. A dark horse, well, there's so many dark horses. And also, the riders give you stick throughout the season. So if you've not put any of those riders in the top 3, they're in your ear the whole season long. So I get absolutely no benefit from predicting the top 3. And if you're right at the end of the year, everyone just goes, oh, you're a smart ass. So I don't really see the benefit. So I've left that to everybody else to sort out.
Well, that's the end of the season preview, ladies and gentlemen. No, mate, honestly, I've been thinking about, we've been planning this for a few weeks now, and we wanted to get testing done and dusted because, as we spoke about last week, it would just be our luck to make some kind of prediction before Oulton Park, and then said prediction goes and spanners themselves and they're out for the first 3 rounds. So there's no commentator's curse coming from Off Track Podcast from anybody in testing because we've kept our powder dry. That's the main thing. But it's going to be so tough to predict. As you said, that you can't predict a top 3. It's physically impossible because you have to choose 6 at least that come to mind straight away. When you look at the defending champion with Kyle Ryde, you look at Tommy Bridewell, you look at Glenn Irwin, you look at Leon Haslam, you look at Bradley Ray, you look at Danny Kent, and that's in no particular order before anybody picks me up on it. That's just off the top of my head. That's not a championship prediction. It's an incredible lineup, and the fact that we're going back to individual teams as well rather than 2-man teams, apart from the factory Honda team at sort of what you would class as that end of the table. The individual teams of PBM, of nitrous competitions, OMG Racing, McCams by Martrain, as we said, PBM, Moto Rapido. They're all 1-man teams. They've all got a point to prove, both for manufacturer and for championship. It's fascinating. What do you think?
It is fascinating. And I mean, there was a point where a few weeks ago, there was some genuine concern about, Fade leaving the paddock and there not being an OMG team. Maybe the defending champion's not there, which would have been hugely damaging to the sport. But I think that everybody has done a marvellous job to get it all back again. Stuart, of course, at the forefront of that. And when you think that over the last couple of years, we lost Raceways Yamaha, and FHO Racing leaving, you'd think, well, that's a big dagger to the heart. We obviously lost Birdie. There was some speculation about what would happen with that team. But from it, this phoenix has risen from the ashes. And, we've now got, Jordan and Frank back in full force with Glenn, which is fantastic. It's sad to lose Faye from the paddock, but I'm sure we'll come to Hickey and Davy's project with 810 Racing. That sounds brilliant. I listened to the podcast you did with Peter on the way back from Jerez yesterday. And, that sounds like a really great prospect, I think, for the pair of them. Michael Laverty, has entered a team in the championship as well. OMG have managed to find their way back into the championship again. Steve Rogers has come back as well. So, realistically, I think once we actually arrive at Oulton Park, we've got a really great situation on our hands, and there's some fascinating dynamics within that as well. And the fact, you could even argue that the fact that Kyle and Brad are now splitting in separate teams, that adds a little bit more spice. They're not teammates. And so, yeah, I think across the board, you look through that entry list, and what are there, 26 riders? I defy you to look through that list and tell me that there's not possibly 20 or so riders who wouldn't be upset if they weren't on the podium at the end of the year at some stage. And that's how good it is. And we saw how close it was last year, and it will be no different this year.
I couldn't agree more. It's a fascinating prospect. And with 5 champions on the grid as well, and with Glenn wanting to add his name to that championship, and Danny Kent as well, they want to be part of the British Superbike Championship Winners Club. There's 5 on the grid already, which I think is unprecedented, is it not?
It is. It must be. I think it's the strongest. I mean, I know we probably say this every year, but I do think it's the strongest grid we've had in decades. I think it's unbelievable. And I don't know if you've done the same, but you write down the list of riders, and then you're like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And you sort of start to work out quite quickly, well, there's going to be a few guys here that don't score points at Oulton Park who are going to be going home, quite frankly, utterly pissed off. They are going to be furious. That's how strong the field is in terms of depth. I think it's probably one of the strongest we've ever had.
And this is what's bringing us forward into 2025 now. That of all the negative that Stuart's had to deal with, he's actually brought together what's going to be an amazing championship. It's, as you said, it's great to have Kyle on the grid. It's great that OMG Racing found their way back with nitrous competitions. What did Kyle do last year? 9 wins, 3 seconds and 6 thirds, and just 1 DNF. That's championship winning standard in any class, in any form of racing. And I think he's carrying that confidence forward. We had a quick chat with him at the Oulton Park test, but he knows he's got a bit more of a job on this year, because the danders are up for a few of the riders, and especially sort of Danny Kent, who took his first win at Brands at the end of last season. He knows he can do it now. And the continuity of OMG, of McCann's Racing, of PBM, that continuity, and of Honda Racing as well, although we'll come to Tommy shortly because he's not had the best of starts to the season from the testing side. But that continuity and hitting the ground running is going to be absolutely vital.
It is, yeah. Starting with Kyle is the best place to start. I mean, he was tremendous last year, and it wasn't just the race wins, but it was the rounds where he scored points when arguably he shouldn't. Not Kill really stands out for me, because he shouldn't have even been out there. There'd have been other riders who would have parked up, gone home. He was really ill. He had some bad crashes. And, that solitary point that he scored in one of the races, it just shows how important every point is in the championship. And then it got to the latter stages of the season, and he grew. He turned into a different animal. He turned into a different machine, and something clicked. And the wet race win at Oulton Park was a huge turning point for Kyle in BSB. Notoriously, he's always struggled a bit in the wet, and he polished his act up, and he was just a new man. He's always had that, outright speed, unbelievable talent. But for that all to knit together, and the aggression he showed, and then everything that sort of built up into Brands Hatch, he is a different animal completely. And I can't see him doing anything other than building on that. It must have given him so much self-belief, so much confidence, because that's what he gained, that self-belief. And now he's got, the team focusing purely on him, which is great, for him. The team hasn't really changed him on his side of the garage at all. He's now a one-man operation. But it is going to be difficult, because I think that his rivals are arguably stronger than they were from last year as well. I'm not saying Kyle won't be. And as we get through them, we'll explain why I think that they've got stronger from there. So Kyle probably knows that he is going to have to hit the ground running and at least start off from the point he finished last year. But he's definitely capable of it.
No question. And I'm delighted he's running the number 1 plate as well, because you always have that theory that well, what if I don't win the championship again? And I didn't win, look at Joan Mir when he won the MotoGP championship, when he shows his grandkids in years to come, and Grandad was a MotoGP world champion. Well, where's your number one, Grandad?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I've always been an advocate of sporting the number one. I know that there are some riders that are a bit superstitious with it. Sometimes it hurts with rider branding and things like that. But I think also at a time where, as a sport, we're looking to grow, we've already got a fantastic audience, but we do want to bring in a new audience as well. And if someone's flicking on the TV or their tablet or whatever they're watching on, and they see a number one on a bike, they immediately know what the story is. And, so things like that really help. And also, our number one just looks bloody cool on a bike. So
it does. It does. It's nice to have that defending champion wearing the number one. And just as the last point on Kyle, what were those 2 laps like to commentate on at the end of last season? I think it's had like 750,000 views or something on YouTube, those last 2 laps. I think Kyle and I played them 500 times when we were doing the chat shows back in February.
Yeah, that was a whirlwind, to be honest, Dave. After that race, I mean, I could barely breathe. I don't think me and Whit could believe what we'd witnessed. That night I had to fly to Australia, and I was in the airport, and I had to watch back the last few laps a couple of times just to remember what I'd even said. What was amazing, I mean, it was just pure racing. It's everything that you could possibly wish for as a neutral. Is 2 guys going at it, respectful, passing, everything that you could want, and it's all on the line. Whoever wins takes the championship, and it goes to the last corner of the last lap. Pure drama. I think the really good thing about it for me, I mean, listen, we're lucky that we get to commentate on that. But I honestly can't really remember doing it. But it doesn't even need commentary. That's the cool thing about those last 2 laps. That's what's brilliant about the championship, is that you could just watch those 2 laps with whatever sound or music that you wanted, and they'll be just as spectacular and arguably better than listening to me and Whit screaming and making dogs hide behind chairs and stuff. So yeah, it was crazy. I couldn't believe what we'd seen, and I mean, it was just breathtaking. Everything that you could possibly want, all mixed in. And I know some people have said that they think it's as good as 2011. I think they're both different dynamics. I think they're both different races. One of my favourite races to commentate on last year was Donington Park. O'Halloran's win.
Oh, race 3 at the first Donington round. Yeah. One of the best. That ignited the season for me, because before that it had been sort of Glenn. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hello, boys. Welcome back. Here's everybody.
Yeah. I've been really lucky over the years to have commentated on some amazing races. And that Donington one was absolutely spectacular. I didn't think that could be beaten. And then Brands Hatch, last race. It was fantastic. It was really great. And you always know if it's a good race if Whit's lost for words. And Whit was just like, I can't watch.
Thanks for your input.
No. It was difficult to know what to say at times because we were lost for words, which is not ideal when you're a commentator. But it was just spectacular. It was brilliant, and just the guys put on an amazing show, and neither of them really deserved to lose the championship.
No, and a tip of the hat to you and to Whit for covering those 2 laps. I still don't know how you guys do it. It's we see it a lot on social media. It's a very personal thing, is commentary, but I think you both did a great job. So tip of the hat to you both for that, and more of that to come this season.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah, hopefully. I know commentary is incredibly subjective. I know everyone's got their own opinion on it. We won't go into that.
That's a podcast on its own.
Oh God. Yeah, well, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll open the off-track arms one night, and we'll discuss it over a couple of beers. But no, it's just, we're privileged to do the job, and we're just lucky that we've got some amazing riders who just want to leave nothing out there. So brilliant.
Let us know in the comments below if you want us to do that, because we can do a YouTube live on that one, and we can invite subscribers to ask questions.
Well. The only problem is that I sort of, after a couple of beers, loose lips appear. It could go anywhere. You know that. We've shared a few beers. in our time.
We've shared a beer or two over the years, Steve. We certainly have. And there's more to come this season as well. That is a fact. Second place in the championship last year, Tommy Bridewell. We spoke about him with Kyle in the last couple of laps there. If there's a description in the dictionary for determination and sheer bloody mindedness, there's a photograph of Tommy Bridewell. Because regardless of what situation that Fireblade's in, he will just haul it round, kicking and screaming. And I know they've had some issues with the Honda. It's not quite in the window that they want it to be. And we've seen that a little bit in testing. But once we get to race weekend, it kind of frightens me what Tommy could do on a really sorted bike. But hopefully they'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, he defies the odds, doesn't he? Time and time again. He gets better with age. I don't know if they have fine wines in Wiltshire. Arguably not, but he's definitely aging like a fine wine. And I keep, do you know what? I'm never doubting him again. I will hold my hands up and say that with the move to Honda, I wasn't convinced that it would be a match made in heaven, and that I thought it would be just a bridge too far. And boy, did he prove us wrong. I mean, from the moment he went out, he's wrestled the Honda around. The bike, was not too bad, but everything he did was unbelievable. His consistency on it, his ability with his back against the wall to drag some points out of a weekend when sometimes it didn't look like it was going to happen. And that's just Tommy all over. I felt really sorry for him because, like I say, you don't really want, when you're watching a race like that unfold, you don't really want to see someone come out of it without the win. There was an argument for saying that after he won the championship in 23, he could have easily down tools Tommy. He'd done everything that he'd ever wanted to do. He wanted that win for Ollie, and he got it. It would have been so easy for him to just say, yeah, okay, I'll have a little play around, but I've achieved my dream and my goal. But he is just as hungry as ever. And what you've got to now look at is that was his first year on a brand new bike. The team are going to grow. He's going to grow. He's got experience on it. They've now got some data to work off as well. I know testing hasn't gone perfectly, but Tommy's not a tester. He doesn't really like all of that. He wants to go racing. So I'm not judging Tommy until we go racing, and I'm not discounting him ever again. That's for sure. And he will probably remind me of that, because I think when I didn't put him in the top 3 predictions last year, I think a few of us got a nudge from time to time. But yeah, Tommy will be there. He'll dig out the results he needs. And it's been quality to see him grow as a rider as well, and peak at this moment of his career.
It's always fascinating across the season when you get talking to the riders at various places and you get that little tap on the shoulder going, I was listening to you earlier on. You're like, oh, fuck.
The trouble is, Dave, you don't realise it. You know what? When you're doing your podcast, when we're commentating, you don't realise who's listening at any point. That's just facts. And it always surprises
absolutely.
me. It always surprises, which is why you have to be careful what you say sometimes, because obviously you do get the odd tap. And I know the guys watch back the racing, and so you listen. I like all of the riders. We'll probably come to that towards the end of this. There isn't a rider out there that I don't have a lot of respect for and I get along with really well. But sometimes you have to call things the way you see them, because that is your job. And sometimes the odd rider might not like it, and so you might get a little dig in the ribs. But that's
I've had that recently.
Really? Go on.
Yes. No. Well. Not from anybody in the BSB paddock.
Okay.
I've said something. I've been a little too honest over in the past. I don't know whether it was recently or it was before that. I've been a bit too honest about my thoughts on a particular rider. A mutual friend of ours, Matt Dunn, was trying to arrange a podcast pre-Silverstone, which will tell you what class he was in, and said, "Could you do it with Dave?" And he said, no, he said things in the past that I don't agree with, so I'd rather not do it. And I have all the respect in the world for that. I was just being honest at the time. And so we'll not have said rider on the podcast, unfortunately, which is a shame, because it would have been nice to put the record straight, but I fully understand his reasons for not doing it.
Listen, all of the riders, ultimately, for the fans that come into the sport, and I get it because I was that little lad who used to go on the back of my dad's bike in the 90s and just be completely starstruck by British Superbike riders and World Superbike riders and want their autographs. And they were heroes to me that I worshipped. I work with some of them today, and I can tell you some of them are definitely not heroes. I jest. But the fact of the matter is, we know that they're all just human beings. They've all got feelings, and the bullets do get through. That's fact. Social media is ugly. Some of the things that are said on there about people, they go too far. And whilst I think the majority of the paddock, on and off the bike, have got thick skin, some of the stuff is vile. It is awful, and it's gonna hurt. And it doesn't surprise me sometimes when I see riders come off social media altogether, or the odd rider firing back. It doesn't surprise me because they're all human beings. They're all doing a job. They're all trying to entertain. They're racing at their absolute limit. They've all got weird and wonderful personalities. And it is impossible, I think, in this job to not at some point upset people. We don't want to upset anyone. We don't set out to upset anyone. But it's, some riders do better. Some riders sometimes have their off days. And the vast majority of riders in their career have more off days than they do good days. And unfortunately, there are obviously and naturally going to be some riders that might take it a bit more personally from time to time. But yeah, there's not a lot we can do about that.
There isn't. Exactly that. You've been in a similar situation. It's just the way of the world that we live in. I don't think I was rude. I was just honest, and he wasn't too impressed with my honesty. So I will draw a line under that one and move swiftly on. For Tommy, it's going to be another strong season, as you say. But his sparring partner is coming out swinging for the start of 2025. He put there was a press release or an article that went out pre-Navarra where Glenn Irwin pointed out, he said, "I'm not in it for fast laps. I'm not here to go quick. I just want to build and follow the process." And then he immediately broke lap records at Navarra and Donington Park and finished both of those tests top of the tree. And as I spoke to him at Oulton Park, he said, "Look, if that's the lap I'm doing and that's where we're at, so be it. I'm not deliberately going out for a fast lap." But I think there's a lot of fire in the belly of Glenn Irwin and PBM Racing for 2025. There were a few points last year where he knew he could have done better. The mitigating reasons outside of the championship, sort of like knock hill time. There were the odd mechanical issue with the bike as well that kind of didn't lend itself to a championship challenge. But he only won one less race than Kyle. So you put that together as a championship challenge, and we know for a fact that Glenn's going to be up there. He has to be. He needs to be. He wants to win that British Championship so badly.
Well, he's been part of the tale for the last 3 seasons. Unfortunately, he's sort of come out of it as the bridesmaid more often than not. But you talk of tenacious. That is Glenn Irwin in a nutshell. And I mean, even to the last round, to be fair, the effort he put in on the Ducati, he was really unlucky last year with a couple of really nasty crashes. They weren't soft landings. They were all horrible. Not all of them his own fault. They had a few issues with that tyre as well, which I think has been fixed for this year. We've got a change of tyre, which I think's going to suit Ducati and BMW a little more, hopefully. But when has Glenn Irwin not got fire in his belly? He's a class rider, and I think that he's really settled. He's obviously decided that he's not doing the Northwest anymore. So his pure focus now is to try and win the British Superbike Championship. He's buoyant. He's fast. And again, you can't rule him out at all. He's going to be there. Come what may, he's got a brilliant record at Oulton Park. And I don't care what anyone says. The Glenn and Tommy thing is fascinating. From a neutral perspective, I absolutely love it. It's box office. Don't give me the rubbish that they like each other, really. They don't. They really don't. I keep on saying this to people. They respect each other, right?
That's
Every
different.
rider on that grid respects each other. But they want to beat each other. All the riders want to beat each other. But there is definitely needle between Glenn and Tommy. And it will bubble up again. There is no doubt about it. And if it doesn't, I'll go over with a wooden spoon. I'll stir that pot myself. No, I'm joking. or will I? But no, I don't think you need to, because I think that there is just that sort of, there's that professional rivalry, but it's a story that you need, and it's a story that we'll talk about forever. Once they've finished racing, those two will probably go over, share a beer, and just say, what about that? Because this is, their career. You're not racing for a long time in life. And if there is a little bit of needle there, then that's great. They want to beat each other. They don't particularly like each other. And they're both ridiculously fast. But they can't they now know they can't just concentrate on each other anymore. That's the key. They can't just concentrate on each other, because they did at times in the past, and they've got bitten by it. Kyle is now the champion. We'll get to Brad in a minute, and the other contenders, but they can't afford to just be worried about each other. Not that I think they will. But yeah, again, there are 3 riders already that we've mentioned, and on any given day that I wake up, I could put any of those on top step.
100%. And I think
we've got a few more to come as well.
Yeah, I was going to say there's still another half a dozen riders to talk about as we talk through that. The Tommy and Glenn scenario, it fascinates me. Like you say, they are 2 very different characters, but they're very similar at the same time. And they've got that fire in their belly, as you rightly say. And I think whenever they're close to each other on track, the focus immediately shifts to those 2, because they want to beat each other so badly. And I think that will fire each other on this season. But also, you've got Yamahas getting in the way. You've got other Ducatis getting in the way. There's a whole host of things for them to scenarios, really, for them to consider. But the actual relationship between the 2, I'm the same as you. I find it absolutely fascinating, and I can't wait to see it. We haven't had True Needle in the championship at that level for quite a while. I think you maybe go back to maybe Shaky and Josh Brookes. But that became public once, but it didn't have the social media frenzy that Tommy and Glenn has that gets propagated on the Facebook pages and Twitter and Instagram and wherever. The rival camps, and I'm not gonna refer it to football and things like that. People are Tommy fans, people are Glenn fans, people are just racing fans. And I think the 3 of those scenarios together just adds more fuel to the fire. I think it's fantastic.
I do as well. And I think what's really great about it, I don't have a dog in that fight. I mean, I've known both Tommy and Glenn for a really long time before I ever started commentating on BSB, and from the grassroots stuff that I've done from my time in Paddock from some years ago. And I love Tommy. I think he's a fantastic character. I love him and his family and Stacy, and get along really well with them. And I love Glenn and his family. I get along really well with them, and I love their amazing personalities. I get that fans probably want to pick a side. I understand that. I don't like the tribalism on social media and the hatred. I don't, you can like one and cheer that rider on, but it doesn't mean that you have to hate and be spiteful to the other. That's key. Because ultimately, we are talking about riders that are racing to the absolute edge. This is a dangerous sport. Enjoy the entertainment, enjoy the rivalry, like we do. But they're both brilliant guys. And it's I think it's good to see, just because they are 2 fantastic characters. You never really know what they're going to come out with when you stick a microphone under their nose. And long may it continue, because I love to see it.
And this is something that people get, that our listeners and viewers will get to grips with. I think they know that from me as well, but it's interesting that you can kind of back me up on this as well. We have some riders that we get on with more than others, but we like all of them. Everybody will speak to us in pit lane. Nobody avoids us, as far as I'm aware, not deliberately anyway. And it's hard to be, you can't be disparaging about the British Superbike pit lane, because they become friends at the end of the day. They become acquaintances. And it's hard to choose one over the other, because they all have such different characters that you take the best out of all of them. Yeah.
I mean, when you do the job, obviously you speak to all of the riders. And I think, other than, and I can talk from experience of World Paddocks as well, only maybe a couple of riders have ever been, let's say, rude to the point where you're just like, well, I haven't really got time for that. But it doesn't mean that I don't respect them as a rider. What I can tell you about BSB is that when I do pit walks on Friday, I'm walking along that pit lane, and there isn't a friendly face that I don't see. I love every single one of them. I like all of them. There isn't a rider in BSB that I don't want to see be successful. And that's what's really great about it, is that there's always a great story. No matter who wins, there's a reason to be pleased for them, because they've all got their own backstories. There's all fantastic reasons to see different riders picking up the trophies, and some of them we know more about than others. But they've all got here through blood, sweat, tears, hard work, and most of the riders in the BSB paddock have not come here with a checkbook in their back pocket either. They've all had to work incredibly hard. Some still do. They don't get paid the extortionate amounts of money that MotoGP riders get paid. Some of these guys have still got to do jobs Monday to Friday and things like that, but they're all brilliant people. They're all wildly different. Some of them are absolutely mad as a box of frogs, but they're brilliant, and they are all individuals. But yeah, like you're saying, I think it's always important, whilst there might be some who are flying a flag for one, and I get it, I did when I was younger. From our job perspective, I don't care who wins. I don't give a shite who wins the race. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just happy for whoever's doing it.
That's because we're fans of motorcycle racing in general. When you're a kid, it's great to have Rossi on your wall, or Marquez, or going back in my case, Wayne Gardner and Freddie Spencer, and I'm a little bit older than you, Barry Sheen. But that's what happens when you're a kid, and then you come into the paddock and you get to know the riders, you get to know the characters, you get to know the team owners, the mechanics, and everything else. It's one traveling family. It takes a while to be accepted because they've all been doing it for years and years, especially the mechanics. Most of them have been there 25 years or more, the senior ones, and the crew chiefs. They've been there, seen it, done it. People come, people go. It takes a while to be accepted. You've got to sort of earn your spurs in there. But once you have, no pun intended, obviously, with the spurs bit. But once you have, then you are part of the family, and you can do what we do and what you do. And you get the support from the riders and the staff as well, which is vitally important, because I couldn't do this without it.
Yeah, well, it's all about earning respect, isn't it? And being friendly. It costs nothing to be friendly. Absolutely nothing. We're trying to do our job. They're trying to do theirs. And if we can have a nice relationship out of it, then great. I mean, I think you know what, as well as I do in the BSB paddock, you're drawn to certain people more than others. That's just the way sometimes it happens, because they might speak to you more often. But there isn't a rider in BSB that isn't approachable. I don't think I can. There's no garage. This doesn't happen in World Championship racing, by the way. You cannot just walk into any garage and go and plonk yourself down next to a rider and have a chat. In BSB, you can do it in any garage. And the only time I would not venture into a garage is if someone's had a crash and there's a big moment, there's a lot of stress that's going on. You know your moments, you pick your moments, but everybody is approachable. That's not just riders, that's their family, that's the crew chiefs, that's the team managers. Everyone has got time for you, and that is what makes this even more special.
Again, I'm agreeing a lot with you. We cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways, you and I. And I think with approachable people, I think that's a beautiful segue into Danny Kent, McCam's Racing by Martrain. I think talking of approachable people and an eloquent and considered a world championship bred rider, that you can't find a more approachable rider than Danny. And I think he's got a massive season coming this way. Continuity with the R1, continuity with the team. I think there's a massive season incoming from Danny, because now he knows he can win a British Superbike race.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I was in the MotoGP paddock this weekend. You'd be surprised how many people talk about BSB. And that last race last year, by the way, certainly didn't do that championship any harm at all. But most are enthusiasts and most watch it. And I think I heard a handful of people in the paddock actually mention Danny as their favourite for the championship, and you can't rule him out. He's a lovely lad, is Danny. He's quite shy, actually, too shy for his own good at times, but really, really polite and very, very approachable. I'd say, arguably, given that he is a world champion, maybe lacked a bit of self-belief at times in BSB, but it was coming, wasn't it? You could sort of see it was coming on the Honda prior to now.
Hang on a second, mate. Sorry. Hello, Jennifer.
You're live on YouTube.
Oh, has it gone live again? Oh, well, I'll have to stop it. Jennifer's just run home from work to say we've gone live on YouTube as well.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes. For some reason, I don't know why, but this Riverside FM, it links to YouTube. I thought I'd unlinked it, but never mind. We'll just keep going. Hello to all our YouTube viewers that I didn't know were there. Thank you, Jennifer. Luckily, she only works 5 minutes away. So she did try and ring earlier, but I cut it short. And now she's had to run home to tell me that we're live on YouTube. I don't think there's anything I can do about it. So we'll just leave it up. It's fine. Okay. It will go out tomorrow anyway.
Well, fine. Well, hello to everyone. Well, I'm glad we didn't say anything too bad. We had to cut and re-edit.
Yeah, exactly. This is off track, uncut. I think we've done all right so far. I very rarely have to edit anything, but my God, we're going to be really aware now. Sorry, mate. Carry on, Danny.
Yeah, Danny. He's a great lad, and you could see it coming anyway. And I think that move to the McCams team, under Martrain with Tim and Sonia Martin, has worked out really well. He's obviously. He's got a good team around him. He's building up speed. He needed that win just to get it off his back, really. And then you just wonder, don't you, what that might unlock. He was quick in testing as well, and now he's got Reg as well.
That's huge for me.
Isn't it weird how we all know Roger, and even before you've seen them work together, you just go, yeah, that works.
I think it's difficult for Joe Talbot. That's something we will come on to as we talk about Joe and Brad and his ride. But I think the great thing to come out of it, as you rightly say, to put Danny and Roger Marshall together for what Roger did for Ryan Vickers over the last 2 seasons, for Taron McKenzie and for Jason O'Halloran prior to that, when he came away from race control. I don't think it can be underestimated the effect that Reg is going to have on Danny. I think it's that last 2% that Danny needed, I think, is Roger Marshall shaped.
Well, the thing is with Roger, he's obviously like a hugely decorated rider himself back in the day. He's got some amazing stories, which you've heard on your podcast, and that was great. But he's a beautiful human being. Like, I love seeing Reg. Every single time you go into a paddock, you cannot have anything other than a big smiley face when you bump into Roger Marshall. He's fantastic, and he's a really calming influence, but he knows his onions, and him and Danny will work together really, really well. And I agree. I think that could be like just that extra little bit that Danny needs. So when you start the season and you naturally talk about the 3 guys that for the last few years have been fighting for the championship, your Kyle, your Glenn, your Tommy, and we'll come to Brad shortly. Danny Kent has to be in that mix. I think we'd be a bit foolish to not put him in there. So
it's that, and you talk about that Donington race that was one of the best races of the year, race 3 at Donington back at the first Donington round. Danny was in the mix for that as well. That was when he just started coming into his own, and the belief started to come across, but it just didn't quite get the chance to put it together into a win until the end of the season. But my God, everything now is in place for him. So that's Kyle, that's Tommy, that's Glenn, and Danny, 4 race winners, 4 championship contenders, 3 individual team riders, plus a Honda pairing along with Andrew for Tommy. But then you throw in Brad Ray into the mix as well. 2 years in World Superbike, hungrier than ever to come back and prove a point. With the OMG fallout as well, leaving him for a short period of time without a ride before Steve Rogers got the band back together with the help of Yamaha Racing. And all of a sudden, he's in a team now with Mark Woodidge as his crew chief. Mark's lad, Brad, on, I can't remember which end of the bike he's on, but also Tony, who's a Raceway's stalwart with Taz and Jason and basically Steve's right-hand man. Tim Seed helping out on the electronics when he can do. Steve Rogers overseeing it all. It could be a match made in heaven, that.
Pretty tidy team, that.
If you could handpick a team, you're not going to go far off from that, are you?
No, it's wonderful to have Steve Rogers back in. in the frame. And I know that has all happened as a result of AMG, and that Alan Gardner and Steve have obviously been working together to try and make this happen for Brad. So it's great that he's got that ride. I spoke to Shaky some days after the OMG announcement, and he was working overtime to try and find something for Brad. And along with Stuart Higgs, and they're all trying to make this jigsaw come together. And so, yeah, I'm delighted for him. And that is, what a weapon. The bike is fantastic.
Brad or the bike?
Oh, everything, all of it. Brad and the bike is a weapon. Brad is a stronger rider, in my opinion, having done what he did in World Superbike. For those that don't know, Brad was on, you could argue, a third-rate Yamaha in World Superbikes. And even the first-rate Yamaha wasn't, knocking walls down. So it was always going to be a tough order for him. But he went faster pretty much everywhere he went. And it's all in those small details. And he won't have forgotten how to ride a bike around British circuits. He's proven that in the tests already. He's going to be a force. And I think that also he comes back to prove a point. He'll want to come back and prove a point. He'll have seen what's happened since he's gone. He'll have seen that the riders he was racing against have all grown, have all got stronger. He's not up against the same Kyle Ryde. He's not up against the same Tommy, and he's not up against the same Glenn. They are all better than they were. But then so is Brad. So it is now just going to be fascinating to see where he fits into all of that. And again, just another rider who, this morning I could wake up and say Brad could win this championship. Tomorrow I could say he might be second, he might be third. But, again, what he did in his 2022 season was really, really impressive. Like, seriously impressive. Some of the lap records still stand. But yeah, he's got a big point to prove. Great to have him in. Fantastic.
You look at the qualifying lap at Cadwell Park, the qualifying lap at the second Oulton Park, and his top time from the Oulton test was 0.04 of a second outside of that incredible 1:32.94 that he did at the penultimate at the second Oulton Park in 2022. That's on a bike that was delivered the previous Tuesday.
Yeah, the lap at Cadwell really stands out as well. I remember covering that because he had a little bit of time. He made up so much time in the last sector.
Half a second through the trees.
And that is so difficult for anyone that's ever raced around Cadwell Park or even done a track day. You try to find half a second through there. Insane. That was in a mega lap. And he'll be hungry for more because he's not going to want to come back he's certainly not coming back to make up the numbers. He wants to come back to say, look, I left BSB because I wanted to try and show what I've got in World Superbike. It's not worked out. It doesn't mean that all doors are closed for him in World Superbike again, but he wants to come back and he wants to win the title so that he can then say, okay, right, what's next? But, he's got some gladiators to try and get past to get there. But yeah, another great one. So there's 5. We could be here a while, mate.
We could be here a while. I'm just wondering. I'm wondering if my timer says 12 minutes, but before that it said 20 minutes. I wonder if that's when Jen rang and it interrupted the broadcast. But anyway, I'll edit that bit out. If you're watching live, here we are. When I spoke to Brad before Christmas, he was very keen on the fact that how World Superbike had raised his level. Because it's world level racing, you've commentated on this, you've seen it firsthand. You have to be 100% from lap 1 of FP1. This build. They don't really have time for that now. And especially BSB, where we do FP1, FP2. FP2 sets up qualifying as it does at world level into your Q1. And it's a fascinating way, but he needs to go out there and he can hit the fastest speed he can in the shortest amount of time and really take it to the field, because that's the point that he's really looking to prove.
Yeah, and I think that is certainly an added bonus that he's got there based on that. It's not just that, but he's physically and mentally stronger. He looks stronger. He's been training really, really hard. And you have to train slightly differently for Worlds because you can't afford to rest on your laurels at any point in World Championship racing. I'm not saying that riders in BSB are riding half-assed for, half a race by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that is a really interesting detail for this year, to see whether or not out of the blocks he is just catch me if you can, and can everyone else manage it? So yeah, he looked really good in the Oulton test. Really good.
And he's so relaxed as well. He's walking around the paddock, nothing's phasing him, despite the difficulties of setting up the new ride after being settled since the middle of October when it was announced that he was coming back. And then to be having to find a new ride, Shaky working overtime, Stuart Higgs working overtime, Steve Rogers, Yamaha. They've put something together a little bit special. And I think that that there's a lot of people now kind of raising an eyebrow. He was going to be special at OMG anyway. There's no doubt about that. Put him alongside Kyle and Joe Talbot. But now he has a small team with a huge amount of experience just for him. Like Glenn, like Kyle, like Danny, like Leon Haslam, who we'll come to. These small pockets of individual teams with massive points to prove.
Well, just think there, the 5 riders that we've mentioned. Tell any one of them right now that you'll be 5th in the first race.
Great shout.
They won't be happy. But one of them's going to be. You'd argue it might even be worse based on some of the other names we're going to bring to the table. So, yeah, it is unbelievable. But yeah, Brad, when is he not relaxed? All right, he's fine. He's going to be. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
All right, Geezer. Why's your hair ginger? It's not Brad. It's Lancashire Sunshine.
Strawberry blonde.
Strawberry blonde. He'll get that. I'm going to get a kick on the ankles when I see him next time. We've had the blue shampoo on it since, so mine went like that when I did it. But no, great to see him back. Talk to me about Leon Haslam, because this is a fascinating move because of the sort of the top 3 or 4 that we've spoken about. This is one that's going to be in the championship challenge, but with a change of manufacturer. So after his time on the BMW, which again, same as Tommy, wrestled it round, did his very best to make the best of what the BMW could do. Ultimately, it wasn't quite enough, as we saw with the other BMW riders, unfortunately. Moving to Ducati, moving to Moto Rapido, same sort of thing. A few people went, how's he going to get on with Wilf? And it's turned out that it looks fantastic. The relationship is there. He's quick. He's happy. He is going to be up there from session 1. Of that, I have no doubt. He's so at home on that Ducati Panigale.
Yeah, when the move was announced, Leon was pretty buoyant and really a lot of self-belief. I'm winning it next year. That's what he said. It's a great team, as we know. I think, everyone was, there's 2 big personalities there in Leon Haslam and Steve Wilfmore. And so it's really good to see that they've knitted together well. I think for Leon, you have to remember about Leon is that for the last 2 seasons, he's not been on the best bike and he's had the pressure of having to run it all himself as well. He's had some big injuries to overcome, huge injuries that we didn't even know about because he didn't tell us. We didn't know at the start of the year that he was, bashed and bruised and had no testing. And yet he still does Leon things, every single round. He is fitter than I'm not saying he was ever unfit, but he's fitter now. He's stronger. I spoke to Sam Lowes at the weekend and he said he's well up for this. He's putting everything into it. The Ducati is a decent bike. We know that bike can win races. Leon's up for it. At times, he was really unlucky not to win at Oulton last year. If you look back at that race, any other day, that would have been 25 points, or whatever the points were at the time. It would have been a win for Leon. So yeah, he really can't be discounted based on his experience. He's strong everywhere. He's good in mixed conditions. And if he hits the ground running, and let's be honest, he's been fast in every test, every single test so far. If he can stay injury-free, and now without the pressures of having to run his own team as well, so he can just focus on riding and feedback. I think that's the key thing. And then Steve's going to work his magic. And yeah, they'll be there. They'll be in the mix. So I think you'd be really, really foolish to rule Leon out.
Oh, I agree. He's in my top six without a shadow of a doubt. You can't discount him at all. And you mentioned about the injuries. He mentioned it to us when we sat down with him down at the farm in May. But I think looking this year, when you look down the entry list, as far as we are aware, and this counts for Leon as well, as far as we are aware, everybody's starting the season in the best shape possible, it feels.
That's a good point. Yeah, I was thinking that. More often than not, we start the season with a bit of a question mark over one or two riders' heads, or we know that a rider's had a big crash in testing and they face a race against time to be fit for the opening round. As far as I'm aware, it's exactly the same what I've got written down as you. I think we've got as close to 100% fit for pretty much everybody, unless someone's not telling us something. With all the teams ready, with a load of testing in their back pocket, in good weather conditions. When's the last time that happened?
I can't think. It was part of putting the notes together. It suddenly dawned on me. It's like, hang on, everybody. I can't remember a start to the season where everybody is so publicly motivated and so publicly injury free that we're going into the first weekend. It's been a long off season. People are champing at the bit more than ever to get a race under their belts. Normally by now we've done a couple of rounds in either Navarra or a couple of rounds at Silverstone or wherever, a couple of races, should I say. And they know where they're at, but we're not. We're going straight from an Oulton Park test into an Oulton Park race weekend. Arguably one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar because it's got a bit of everything. And if your bike is set up to work well at Oulton Park, the chances are it will work well pretty much everywhere. And I think there's no better place to start the championship on such an iconic track that isn't a big, wide open 3-corner place like Silverstone. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it's gnarly circuit, Oulton Park, because you have to be fast there. You have to go to the absolute limit, and it's scary to do that around Oulton Park. But yeah, I will just say for the record, I'm not trying to tempt fate here. We know most of these riders. Some of them can be praps at times. There is still a chance for one or two to get injured between now and Oulton Park in a few days' time, and that's not on a bike. So fingers crossed. Come on, boys, don't let us down.
Yeah, don't let us down now. Not now we've said that. Please, please all stay injury free. I don't want any niggles, pulled shoulders. I don't want anything. I want everybody to start on the most even keel possible. Yeah. When we talk about Leon stepping into Moto Rapido, he took the place of Christian Idden, who's gone to FS3 to AJN Steelstock Kawasaki, alongside Max Cook, who enters his third season. I don't think it's going to be easy for those boys on the Kawasaki. It's the oldest bike on the grid, but as it showed last year with Jason winning that third race at Donington Park and Max putting it on the podium at Thruxton, didn't even need to look at my notes for that one. Did you notice my eyes stayed firmly glued on the camera?
That's because you've got your notes just stuck to the top of the camera there.
No, they're at the side. Thanks, mate. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think Christian's slowly but surely getting the hang of there's a certain way to ride a Kawasaki, I'm led to believe. And Max in his third season is just about there. Christian has a huge amount of experience. He's one of the elder statesmen of the championship. I sure you won't mind me saying that, along with Leon and Josh Brookes. But I think there's a lot of potential in there as well, because the bike has a huge amount of data. It's at the peak of its development. There's nothing more they can do to it in terms of new parts now that the Factory World Superbike team has drifted away into another manufacturer. Again, that's going to be fascinating for Christian. He's got a new challenge underneath him and a really fast teammate.
Yeah, I like the move actually for Christian and for Darren and Nigel at FS3 as well. What is it, AGN Steelstock Kawasaki it's going to be called, isn't it, for the season? Yeah, it is the oldest bike on the grid, and they are the only Kawasaki's on the grid. Now, whether that's an issue or not remains to be seen. But when there is no more development to come from a bike, what do you want? You want a hungry young rider who's making progress at every turn, and you want someone with stacks of experience who knows how to get the job done. And that's exactly what they've got in Christian Idden and Max Cook. They're both wonderful guys, and you already know that they'll help each other at stacks. They will pore over each other's data. Christian will be there helping Max. Max might even teach Christian a thing or two as well, because I thought Max was pretty quick in some of the testing that I saw, which is really good to see. They are up against it. Let's not lie. It's not at some circuits going to be the best package, but it's a great team. It's a great unit. And like you said, it knows how to win races. Donington last year, Hallam did a proper job on everyone. We know at Thruxton anything's possible. It's just that some of the other circuits, I mean, look, it wasn't that long ago Lee Bob won on the Kawasaki around Oulton Park as well. So it's doable. It's definitely doable.
They were 6th and 7th overall in that Oulton Park test recently.
There you go. Yeah. Two great guys. A lot of time for Christian, a lot of time for Max. I think at times last year, Max lacked a bit of self-belief. I think there's times where he might just need an arm around his shoulder just to get that confidence going. But again, there's no better team to be in than that one to try and push him up. And I think Christian will give him that boost and confidence as well, because he's a incredibly intelligent guy. As Christian, he sees everything. He will see where that Kawasaki is strong. He'll see where Max is strong. He's the exact pick-me-up I think that the Kawasaki team need after a couple of years where they've been licking their wounds a little and it hasn't quite gone to plan. I mean, listen, Christian Idden is a fantastic rider who on his day can win races. So I'm not sitting here and saying they're going to fight for the championship, but can Max Cook and Christian Idden win races on that? Absolutely. Absolutely they can. And as you well know, the key to winning this championship, because there are so many protagonists there, the key is going to be staying consistent and eating up those points, because the longer you can stay in it, it means that it's wide open towards the end of the season. And anything can then happen. So, yeah, I think it's a nice team, that.
I think it's fair to say that they might not be championship contenders at this point, but they're certainly going to be in amongst the championship contenders and taking points off them at various rounds.
Yeah, I don't think they would be upset with us if we said at the moment they don't stand out as championship contenders. But equally, if Max and Christian are standing on the top step, 1 and 2 at Oulton Park, I'm not going to be in Parc Ferme with my jaw on the floor. I'll be delighted for them, but I wouldn't be surprised, because that's how good they are.
Is it tip of the hat? Like, well done, boys. Yeah, you're right. This is how it works. This is how motorcycle racing goes ahead. One guy that, not through any reason that we're just going through the sort of the top 6, top 7. What I want to do is give a good shout to Andrew Irwin, because as Tommy Bridewell's teammate, that's never an easy position to be in, as Glenn will attest to. And he is an incredibly determined. He's the loudest voice in the garage, and he will take the piss from a distance on the other side of the garage. So you have to be a certain kind of character to be Tommy Bridewell's teammate. And for the second year now, Andrew Irwin back on the other side of the garage at Honda Racing UK. I think it's a big year for Andrew as well, because he's shown potential so many times, but just hasn't had the opportunity to link them together to put in a top 5, top 3 race winning championship challenge. Do we see him making more of an impact in 2025?
If he stays fit, yeah, why not? I mean, Andrew Irwin is a BSB race winner, and back end of last year, let's not forget, played wingman to Tommy perfectly well, had speed, probably to do more in the last couple of rounds, but didn't really want to get involved. And who could blame him? I mean, his teammate's Tommy Bridewell and his brother's Glenn Irwin. I mean, it's a mad situation. I feel sorry for him in a way, because he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. And obviously took a load of flack on social media unnecessarily.
For Donington Park.
But
yeah,
I mean, goodness me, what's he supposed to do? It was a really difficult situation, but I don't think we saw how good Andrew could be on the bike, because professionally, he said, I am not going to get involved in this championship battle. Let's not forget, he's gone through a plethora of injuries that have ruled him out for so long. So if he can stay injury free, listen, All of these BSB riders will tell you, if you see +0 Andy Irwin on your pit board, you know that you're in for a fight. He digs deep, does Andy. But again, really talented. I hope it works. I just think he'll just need to build a few results. If he can get a few early on and he can build on that, there's nothing to say that he can't be there week in, week out.
It's great to see him back to the peak of physical fitness as well after that injury from Knockhill that's taken over 12 months to heal. The same injury that Marc Marquez had with the his left humerus. You can't imagine what he's been through to have to come back from that, and then to be thrown into the midst of a Bennetts British Superbike battle the way that he was when he came back. And also, I mean, he's got a career after racing because he was superb on the TV coverage as well, as was Danny Buchan, who we're missing from the championship this year. So we'll give Danny a shout as well. So we haven't forgotten about him. And I think you're right. With a fit raring to go, all the points are at 0. You've got your own championships to contend with. You're not coming back from injury, having to protect your teammate. It's a free for all at Honda now. So if Andrew can get the better of Tommy can get the better of Andrew, all's fair in love and war in Honda UK.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing you do know is if he's got the bike underneath him and he's feeling happy on it, he will be there. And he likes a lunge. He doesn't need invites to parties, Andy. He will gate crash them.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. Speaking of gate crashing parties, we're doing the segues nicely. Gate crashing the British Superbike party this year. John McPhee on the Master Mac by Hawk, Master Mac Honda by Hawk, alongside Charlie Nesbitt again in another one in his 3rd season. I keep coming back to the 3rd season thing because BSB is so difficult to make a mark on for a young rider. The level of experience, the level of expertise you need to extract the best out of whatever bike it is that you ride under the regulations that we have, as Brad proved, as Taz proved, as Kyle's proven. It takes 5 seasons to get to the sharp end of a BSB season, and both Max and Charlie are making their way there beautifully. But let's talk about the new recruit, the maiden Superbike season for Wee McPhee, John McPhee, coming in from World Supersport and World Championship Racing. He's got a bit of a job on, but he looks happy and he looks hungry.
Oh, he said that, I'll be delighted to see John. I spent a number of years with John, obviously in the Grand Prix paddock, and it's really good to see. He looks really excited. He's always wanted to have a play in British Superbikes. He was also one of those lads who'd stand at Knockhill watching British Superbikes. So, there'll have always been a desire for him to come in. But I don't think he's under any illusions as to how hard it will be. It's going to be incredibly tough. It's not easy to come away from World Championship racing, the vast circuits, and then come back to Britain on a superbike and tackle it. He's no stranger to British circuits, obviously, but it's some time ago since he last rode the smaller bikes around there. I'm quite impressed with him in testing, I've got to say. I thought he's done a fair job there already, John. I think that it's very difficult to even predict anything with what's going to happen with John. I'm not even going to sit here and say, well, he'll be happy with this, he'll be happy with that, because anything is possible with him. You have to remember the pedigree of rider we're talking about, the scalps he has claimed in his career throughout like his junior ranks as well. This is a guy who's beaten Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin and Alex Marquez, who's just won a MotoGP race. He's beaten all those guys, and that list goes on and on and on. In his Moto3 days, and also in World Supersport, I think probably his results on paper don't show actually how quick he was in World Supersport. So brilliant to see him in the paddock and tackling it. It's not going to be easy, but he'll get in the mix. I mean, he knows how to race in Moto3, for God's sake. He's got excellent racecrafters, John, and that's what you need in British Superbikes. But even he doesn't know how he's going to get on. This is a different game altogether. 3 Superbike races over a weekend. That is not the same as anything that he's been used to. And it's a fast and frantic schedule as well. It's, you don't really get much time to dial yourself in. And there are different things that are thrown at you from time to time. And so, yeah, I really hope it goes well for John. I can't wait to see him. I think it'll work quite well, him and Charlie Spud Nesbitt as well, because Charlie would be keen to get experience from John, and I think likewise Charlie can actually probably help John a little bit as well. And it's that big third year, isn't it, for Charlie, where the eyes are on you a little more. You're absolutely right what you say. You need 5 seasons at least. I mean, every rider in their careers mature at different times. You know, if you look at someone like Tommy, for example, how many years he spent in BSB before, you know, the serial winner came out,
Yeah.
and contender, it takes a while to build up to that. You don't need to do it overnight. I think that at times Charlie last year was guilty of maybe just being a bit too impatient, and throwing it down the road. And it's easy to get impatient in British Superbikes when you are riding and you get in and you say, you sit down and you say to your crew chief, "Oh, what's the situation, Governor? I'm 2/10 down. Where am I? P13." Like, that must be tough to take. So sometimes maybe asking a little bit too much of himself in wrong sections, but he's young still. And like you say, he's got to grow. But I think both he and Max Cook are in an interesting period of their British Superbike careers where, look, you've had 2 seasons now. Let's kick on another gear. I think they will. And I'll look forward to watching it because Charlie's now got the experience of being with the same team, great team.
Superb. He couldn't be in a better for development of a rider of his age. There's arguably no better team to be in.
And this is the thing, we keep on saying, like, great riders, great, oh, he's a lovely person, oh, great team, because each of them have got their own flavors and ingredients that work for individual riders. And I just think that this environment works really well for Charlie, and I think it'll work really well for John as well.
It's going to be interesting because it's such a massive switch to a BSB machine from a World Super Sport machine, from a Moto3 machine, lines, power, weight, everything, and on circuits that he's barely ridden on a big bike. So it's going to be a fascinating scenario. And Charlie, again, like you say, with a point to prove, he needs to be regularly top 6, top 8, top 5 if he can. But with realistic views, yes, he wants to win. Yes, he wants to be on the podium. But there's an awful lot of experience and an awful lot of years of BSB around him to be able to get there. And if he gets there, like he did at Cadwell Park, he stuck it on the podium there. Hats off to him. He deserved that. He's very, very quick at Cadwell. If he can transfer that to the other circuits and get the best out of the Honda where he can, and drag John along with him at the circuits that John maybe isn't quite as au fait with, in a similar way that Taz always struggled at Oulton Park because he admitted himself he's like a flea on a dog's back. But you get to Donington, you get to Brands Hatch, you get to Thruxton, they're a little bit more flowing, a little bit more forgiving. And that's where we'll see John really get to grips with a BSB machine.
Yeah, agree completely. Yeah, I think that the same could be said for Charlie. There's some circuits where you can see he's more comfortable than others. And again, that just comes with experience. Danny Kent's the same. Danny Kent really struggled when he first came to BSB at Cadwell Park and Oulton Park. You can see why. I mean, they are not normal circuits. But it's only really last year that Danny then started to get confidence on it. It takes time. So it is going to take Charlie a little bit of time, but he's capable. And with John, I just hope he really enjoys himself. And when you are that good and you've got a CV like that, don't be surprised if somewhere at some point this year he knocks on the door of a podium.
I think so. I would be very surprised if we don't see him in the top 5 at a few places. And as you say, potentially on the podium as well, which again will be taking points off the air quotes championship contenders. Yeah. So that's going to be another sub story of who can take points off the favourites, let's say.
Yeah.
Because that's going to have a massive say on the championship. As we talk about Scotsman, let's talk about Rory Skinner, Cheshire Mouldings, Taz Racing. Switched to Ducati this year. Hasn't been pulling up any trees, particularly in testing. It's a brand new bike to Rory. It's a brand new bike to the team. We know the Ducati is not the easiest of bikes to get in the window as a purebred race bike. When it is in the window, as the experienced teams have proven, it is an incredible package. And I think it's a big season for Rory as well after the struggles of last year. I think, did he miss 24 races last year, if I remember right? 23. I was one out. But he took a win in a second place at Knock Hill. But either side of that was such a challenging season. After a challenging season in Moto 2, after a season that ended with a broken hand at the end of 22, it needs to be a good, consistent, strong season for Rory because we know he's got the talent.
I think if there's an award handed out for the most unlucky rider, Rory would be winning that one over the last few years, both on and off circuit with what's been going on. I felt really sorry for Rory last year because he actually out of the blocks did quite well on the BMW in Navarra and showed something there. And, you know, it wasn't a surprise to see him do what he did at Knock Hill either. But boy, does he know how to crash. It doesn't bounce well, poor Rory, sometimes. Really unfortunate. I mean, fortunate and unfortunate. The crash at Oulton Park, oh my goodness. When I came into the circuit in the morning and I saw the footage of that, we were all very, very worried, and rightly so. So to come out of that relatively unscathed was so good to see. The win at Knock Hill was brilliant. Just again shows, because he's got so much raw talent, that is not up for question whatsoever. But he just needs a run, doesn't he? I think that's what he needs. He needs a run of finishes where he's not, you know, beaten up and stuff. And like you say, it's a big undertaking that for the Taz team. They've been with BMW for a while, and you don't just switch to Ducati and everything just works. You know, you could go and speak to the PBM team, and you go and speak to Steve Wilfmore. They're difficult machines to get right. You have to be meticulous, and you need experience. And I think that from what I can see, and this is only on paper, I've not spoken to Rory yet, but I will, obviously, when we get to the opening round. On paper, it doesn't look like it was the most successful test, but they're going to need time. I don't think they're going to hit the ground running, unfortunately. But Rory has got the capability to run at the front, and when everything does knit together, challenge for wins. There's no doubt about it. We know the bike can do it. We know Rory can do it, but everything's just got to knit together. And I think that's just going to take time, and you can't rush that. No. You really can't rush that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go out to Oulton and to Donington the first two rounds with a mindset of, let's build, let's just get that gap down, let's learn on this
bike. Some data.
Let's get some data and learn, see what the other Ducati riders are doing, see how you're feeling on the bike. What can we do just to kind of, you know, let's not run before we can walk. I think that's the best option. And I think if they can get to that stage where, let's say by 3 or 4 rounds, they're knocking on the door of podiums and then ultimately knocking on the door of race wins, that then sets it up beautifully for next year. And then you could call Rory Skinner a championship contender.
Agreed.
So that's where
I think he'll want to have it in the ballpark by Knock Hill, which this year has got an extra round in between. We go to Snetterton first. They've had a bit of a swap round, haven't they? So Snetterton comes after the roads, and then we go to Knock Hill, then we go to Brands Hatch. So kind of Knock Hill, Brands Hatch would be where you would hope that the Taz team, Cheshire Mouldings, Taz Racing, will be in the ballpark with Rory. I know they've back-to-back a few components through testing as well. It's been an intense testing time. It's not just been, here's the bike, this is what we're running, let's find a base setting for it. They've been back-to-back in different components, and I think that it's caused consternation within the team. I don't know. For me personally, I would have liked to have seen a red shirt in there at some point, or somebody who has proven Ducati experience. I know Ian Hopcroft's in there working with... No, they don't. Exactly. It's all about expense. Ian Hopcroft's in there looking after Eduardo Colombi on the Supersport. But you look through the crews, you look through PBM and the help they've had from Ducati over the years, Wilf's experience and his direct contact with the factory at Bologna and his experience with Ducatis. I just find it's just like, we just need somebody in there who can go, okay, this is what we need. This is where we need to go. The team will start. Stuart Shenton, hugely experienced through Grand Prix. Rory believes in his crew 100%. They believe in him. Matt on the data as well. It's a massive learning experience, but with only 6 test days before you get straight into racing for a new bike to the team and to the rider, in this championship, that's a huge ask.
It is a huge ask. I mean, Rory will want to hit the ground running sooner than not kill, but he's a sharp cookie, is Rory. He's certainly not stupid, and he gets the game. He's very good at resetting from a bad day as well and putting that behind him. The past is the past. Let's move on. Because he's had some tough times, let's be honest, that haven't gone his way, and he's done really well to not reflect on that and just get on with business. So I would love to see them work it out quicker, because if they do, Rory's a force.
100%.
So yeah, fingers crossed they can get that sorted sooner rather than later. But listen, it's the Taz team. They know how to win races. They know how to fix problems. And so if they've had a few issues to begin with, a couple of race weekends, hopefully I'll sort it all out.
Get some data under their belt, get them happy, get smiling, get some good points on the board and see where they go. It's a great way to look at it. Talking of teams changing manufacturers, I'm getting really good at this segue shit. This is good. Dow Racing, 2 new riders for 2025 in Lee Jackson and Josh Brookes, swapping from the Kawasaki to the Honda. Real close association with Honda Racing UK for the team as well. Huge amount of experience coming into the team in double British champion Josh Brookes, BSB race winner Lee Jackson, and lap record holder at Cadwell Park. For me, that's exactly what the team needs. Difficult with Danny and Braden last year. Braden never got the rub of the green as far as the bike and learning to adapt to the Superbike. And he would argue maybe the support wasn't there for him. The team would argue that it was. When you look at the documentary, Danny, some big crashes and a kind of causing him to go, actually, do you know what? I'm done. I've had enough with this. And he's now working with Team Green for 2025. But for Josh and for Lee Bob, a fresh challenge. He's ridden the Honda before, but it's new for Josh. I think there's a fascinating dynamic between the two teammates there and the team in general.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dow Racing, I think it's no secret that they want to get serious, don't they? In British Superbikes, they're not here to make up numbers. They want to win. Somai and Johnny, were keen to bring in 2 new faces, people that could challenge for wins and podiums, and they've done exactly that. I mean, Josh Brookes is a 2-time champion, and he showed at the start of 2023 that he's not done yet. Last year was a write-off, and that can be excused. For whatever reason, the BMWs just didn't work, and there were other factors involved as well. But you put the right bike underneath Josh Brookes, and he will make it sing, and he's still not done. The likes of Josh and Leon Haslam might not be getting any younger, but they are just as hungry. They could retire if they wanted to. They're not here, it's not for money. They want to win. And they're both fighting fit, and Josh is so keen to prove any doubters wrong. And not just that, he believes himself. He can still win the championship. So he's got the self-belief and he's got the talent. I think they're just going to need the stars to align a little bit for that to work. And to begin with, probably just try and get as close to Tommy on the Honda as possible. See where they're at in the terms of the Honda battles, because they're not the only Hondas out there this year. I don't know what the situation will be like in terms of sharing data over the course of the season with other Honda teams. I'm not sure. I would say that they will. It'll be interesting to see actually the Honda battles. They will want to be above Hawk Racing, and Hawk Racing will want to be above them. So there's already going to be some sort of team rivalry with that. But yeah, 2 riders that on their day can do the job. They're vastly experienced. They've got the speed. I think one of the key things for both Josh and Lee is the qualifying.
Yeah.
Because if they qualify well, they always show that they've got the pace to cope with it at the top. But qualifying has become so important. I mean, it's always been important, but it's so key in BSB now. Your weekend can be ruined by starting on the 4th or 5th row, because guess what? All of the names that we've just mentioned are all capable of winning races and finishing on the podium. You're not starting 20th on the grid, if you are starting there, and going, right, okay, well, by lap 4, I'll be up to... It doesn't work like that. You've got proper mountains to move in front of you. So, yeah, I think if they can work that out, the team have obviously got to get used to Hondas. it's a good bike. We saw that last year. It's a good bike. It's a well-rounded machine. Josh looks like he's sort of getting to grips with it as well. Lee won't take long to get to grips with things. So again,
No.
another two guys. Dave, if they're stood on the podium at Oulton Park, are you going to be surprised?
No.
They've both won races around there before. They both know how to do it. I'm not going to be surprised at all. They look great as well, which is always an added bonus.
Of course it is. Aesthetically pleasing.
It's exciting for them. I'm excited for the Dow team as well because they want to get serious. They've got two serious riders. Let's go.
Exactly.
Let's
and
go
one of them's about to become a dad. I think baby Jackson is due on Friday.
Oh, really? Oh, brilliant.
I was talking to Lee's mum, Sam, at the test, and I'm pretty sure in true motorcycle racing lack of planning terms that baby Jackson is due. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know if it's male or female, if it's baby boy, baby girl, but he or she is due on Friday.
Oh, that's fantastic news. Congratulations.
So fingers crossed for the Jackson family.
I'll get a I'll go that round there with a children's book, see if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, as a published children's author, you'll find self. Absolutely. Hey, do you know when you said then about if you're on the fourth or fifth row, you've got all the people ahead of us, or ahead of that rider, all the people that we've mentioned so far, apart from John McPhee, have either won a race, a championship, or stood on a BSB podium.
Mm.
That's your depth of field right there. And we've only got as far as Dow. We haven't spoken about Peter Hickman yet, and Storm Stacy and DT and the rest of them. But that 12 or 14 riders that we've just spoken about, other than John McPhee, have all got BSB podiums and race wins and championships.
Yeah, I mean, if your name's on the top of the race results sheet, you've beaten some serious talent in BSB. So yeah, that's the thing. It's so difficult. There are going to be some riders with headaches at the end of the first weekend because the maths don't work out. I look at these names, Dave, and I can't put them in order. I can't work out who it is that's going to have their nose put out of place because someone has to. It's just fact. Someone has to come away from that opening round happy, and there'll only be a few of them, and the rest are going to be, maybe content to start the season off with, but the vast majority of them are going to come away from the first round with results that they're not expecting because they all believe that they can do it, but the maths just doesn't work from my head.
And you're right. Qualifying is where it's going to start from. Yep. It's not going to be the first race. It's going to be Sunday lunchtime when that first qualifying session gets underway. That's going to set the tone for the race. If you can't put a fast lap together to move yourself up the grid for race 2, and then subsequently for race 3, if you can't improve on those times, you're in for a very difficult weekend, and there's going to be some very grumpy ride homes.
If you look over the last couple of years, which riders have notoriously qualified well? Oh, it's Kyle Ryde, it's Glenn Irwin, it's Tommy Bridewell, etc. There's a clear pattern there. They know how to dig out that one lap and put everything on the line for that one lap. It makes a massive difference for your race, and obviously then the fast laps in the race to help you push yourself up in the grid for the other races as well. So yeah, the list goes on. Where are we next?
Let's talk about BMW, and then we can talk about the privateer teams and the single Honda teams after that. BMW 810 Racing, Peter Hickman, Davy Todd. Peter, hugely experienced. He's ready for the season. He's in much, much better shape, as we heard on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. Or last week, sorry. He's in much better shape than he was this time last year, which is brilliant to see. And having Davy Todd alongside him as co-owner in the team after the upheaval of FHO not racing this year, setting up their own team, hospitality, clothing. They've had to do the whole 9 yards. Pete's still not turned a wheel on his superbike yet, which is kind of put him on a little bit of a back foot as far as BSB is concerned, because then they go straight to the Northwest on the Monday night after the Oulton Park last race. There's a huge amount resting on their shoulders as the BMW team as well. Pete's got all the experience in the world. Davy's still adjusting to BSB. He only had like a half a season with Padgett's on the Honda, so he doesn't have a massive amount of experience on the BSB trim superbike. but he couldn't wish for a better teammate and team co-owner to help him adjust that little bit more.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise when I first heard about the 810 team, but it really does work the more you think about it. I really enjoyed listening to the podcast with Pete that you did with him, because he was very honest and open. And he does sound like he's in a better headspace. You didn't need to be a genius to work out, walking down pit lane last year, that things weren't quite right. And that sort of proved itself at the TT as well. The TT is a different animal, of course, but yeah, it just didn't really work across the board. So I'm delighted to see that Pete has got his happy head on and is mentally, physically stronger. Davy Todd has been desperate to race in British Superbikes a full season. Arguably should have had a full season last year and the year before. So this works. But let's put it this way. Road Supremos. What a team for the roads. That's another story. We'll talk about that later in the year. Although I say later in the year, it's next month. Which, let me tell you, is another headache entirely when it comes to preparation at this moment in time. But yeah, Road Supremo, I don't think either of them are expecting ridiculous things of themselves in BSB. It's a hard task to set up a BSB team. It's not easy. I heard, obviously, in your podcast that they've got Daz back in the fold, which is going to help them enormously. A happy Peter Hickman can challenge for race wins. So ultimately, once they get to grips with the 2025 BMW, which they've only just put together, hence why Peter's not had any road time. And like you say, Davy's lack of track time. I mean, he did have a couple of races, didn't he, with Taz on the BMW. So he's got some experience of it, but you can't expect that just to work overnight. But two guys who just love their racing. They love going around. They love lapping. They're really good fun. Absolutely fascinated to see how the dynamic of that works. Who gives them a bollocking if they're having a bad day? Do they give each other a
themselves
bollocking?
around the back and give themselves a good talking to?
Davey, I don't think you had a very good day. Oh, okay, that was terrible. Yeah, I listen. The great thing about it is that it takes the pressure off, doesn't it? So
Of course it does.
they're not worried about their ride. They're not going to get halfway through a year and think, "Oh, I need some results to get the ride." And they want to work with each other and they want to help with each other. Like Pete said in podcast, he wants to beat Davey when the visor goes down. Friendship's out the door.
Yeah,
so
how it should be.
Yeah, and they'll have a good dust up. I really like it. I really like it. I'm fascinated to see how it goes throughout the year. Looking forward to popping in the garage from time to time and having a chat with them and seeing how they're doing it and how the stresses and strains are of, co-owning a team as well as racing in it. But it sounds like they know what they're doing, and it might be the first of more to come like this. It's not easy. It's not cheap. They're not getting paid a lot of money, but they're passionate. That's the key thing. They love their racing. They're two absolute heroes of the roads, but they both want to be successful at short circuit racing. That should not be forgotten or underestimated. They are not racing in BSB just to make up numbers. They want to win. Every rider,
no question,
is super competitive. They want to win.
That's why they're out there.
Yeah.
No, you can't make up the numbers in BSB, and we'll cover off the BMW side of things. Batham's and Storm Stacy, he had a great test at Oulton Park. Big crowd favourite into, I think this is season 6 now for Storm. He's got the might of Michael Rutter and Ray Stringer behind him. A completely new team for him, completely new manufacturer. I think this is the fresh start that he wanted after 5 seasons with Brent Gladwin and GR Motorsport, where they had successes, they had race wins. Brent helped develop Storm to the level that he is. And now this is another step for him. And again, we need to see something from Storm this year now with regular top 10s, top 5s. Mate, if he can get that BMW challenging for the podium in a wet race, so be it. If he can do it in a dry, again, even better. Hats off. But it's another rider in the mix, taking points off other people and ploughing his own furrow.
Hats off. I like what you did there. Yeah, very good. Da-doom.
That wasn't even deliberate. Thanks, mate.
Listen, who doesn't love Storm? What a character Storm Stacy is. Unbelievable. I'm fairly sure there won't be many people that sell as much merch as Storm Stacy does over the course of the weekend. it is great to see all the top hats in the crowds, and he's so good with the fans. Spent some time down in the GR Motorsport Garage last year during the pit walks, and seeing how he is with the fans and the kids. He's so nice. I mean, he is crackers. There is what you see is what you get. This is not for cameras. Storm Stacy is bonkers, but he's a lovely lad, and I think everyone was delighted to see him do what he did at Snetterton last year. And there were some flashes, and that's the thing. Here's a question then. What would you rather see from Storm coming into this year? Would you rather see him have a flash here and there and be on the podium around, or would you rather see him in the top 10 at every weekend? It's always going to be the latter, because it's progress. That's what he's got to do. He's got to find that consistency to take that next step. And that's what he wants to do. And I think he could do it. I like the fact that he's with Mike. I think Michael Rutter will be perfect for him. An experienced team. They know what they're doing with the BMW. They know how that works in and out. And I think that Michael will just be the right type of guy, temperament-wise, to kind of work with Storm as well. Brent did a fantastic job. And, you know, I think that Storm will forever thank Craig Gladwin, and rightly so, because he put him on the map. But I think everyone needs a change from time to time. So it was the right moment. But it would be great for the fans. I mean, honestly, the top hats that you see in the crowd is brilliant. I mean, it looks like an Undertaker's convention at times, going around the paddock. But no,
Darren Fry will be over the moon.
But it's really good. And he wants, you know, his love for it and his desire to want to get faster, because it sounds like, on the face of things, that there's been a couple of moments in the last few years where he has genuinely thought about just saying, no, this is not an easy sport. And he's thought about parking it. And ultimately, I'm really pleased to see that he's got this opportunity. He looks so excited. But there's going to be some tough times, and he's going to have to just get through them. But I think the key thing, as you rightly point out, some regular top 10s, top 8s, that is a huge step forward for him in his career.
Realistic goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we talk about realistic goals, and the teams that are also making up the championship with great riders and great teams put together. We'll give them a mention in dispatches, because I know time's getting on. If you look at Lewis Rollo at the Sencat IN competition Aprilia, with Chris Barnes, Ian Newton, they've got Pete Jennings in the garage, or he was certainly in the garage at Oulton Park, helping on that side of things. I think with Lee Johnston, they had the Supersport bikes out for that one, because Lewis still recovering from his big off at Navarra, which we wish him well. Hopefully, now there is one that maybe is carrying injuries into the start of the season.
Yeah,
which completely debunks what we were saying before.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
So apologies, Lewis. Hopefully he will be fit and well, ready for the start of the season. Billy McConnell back with C&L Fairburn. We love having Bill be in the paddock. Talk about characters. The crash at Donington curtailed his testing side of things while they've rebuilt the bike.
Two riders you just mentioned there, by the way, that we should point out that were on the podium last year.
Absolutely right.
And you know, and you wouldn't rule
more
that out
podium
again.
contenders.
I mean,
yeah, no, exactly. In the right conditions,
yeah,
it shows the level of skill and the depth of talent.
And both Lewis and Billy, if you actually look at their rate of progression through the course of the season, sometimes it doesn't show up when we're commentating on TV. We can't cover all the bases. It's impossible. We can't see every rider. We can't see all the stories. We can't see sometimes, or have the time to talk about, the gap that's come down from the leader. The position sometimes doesn't reflect actually the progress. And both Billy and Lewis and the other riders we're about to mention, that's going to be this season what they're looking at. So yeah,
we've said it on the podcast enough times. It's not just where it says on paper, it's that time to the leader. And as that time comes down across the season, they are the wins for these teams that are sort of around and about the lower points, maybe outside of the points. It's closing the gap to those championship challenging teams. Great to see Blaze Baker back. Ducati Cup, super sport rider, complete novice on a superbike. He's got a massive season ahead of him with Neil Pearson and MP Racing. CDH have moved to Honda. Jamie Davis is a rookie. Bushy Hedger back in the team again this year. Also, two great riders. Jamie is a rookie. He's got pedigree. We know Luke's got pedigree as a former British champion. And And then the final one, who we had on the show a couple of weeks ago, whose testing form has been outstanding, Ian Woolacott Racing. Send My Bag by IWR, Scott Swan.
Dark horse.
There you go. I knew there's one in there.
Horse. Scott Swan. His testing has been brilliant. Unbelievable talent. Loved what he did on the Superstock last year. What I really love about Scott Swan is he looks at every race, at every opportunity to win. He wasn't at times. There were a few crashes, but he's so hungry. But he's insanely talented, and he will learn so much this year. But to be as fast as he was already, I know it's only testing. That is a hell of a sign. I've genuinely really, really impressed. I've got high hopes for Scott Swan. I think that is a really good team. So that's the dark horse, and you won't miss them either, because the Send My Bag colours are like bright blue. So yeah, one of my dark horses for the season. And I'll spare your blushes, Dave Neal.
Go on.
Tag Honda.
And Tag Honda as well.
Yes, Fraser
Rogers
on his day. Yeah, and Jamie Van Skelris, obviously. No, Fraser, good in testing, and obviously last year, I mean, I can't even believe he was racing with his injuries. I mean, we should probably do a feature on it at some point about what he was racing with. It was insane. He shouldn't have been.
There's a great podcast last year that came out with his injuries.
Yeah. Who did that? Someone with strawberry blonde hair. Can't remember.
Some knobber who's still trying to find his way through and can't actually put a full season together of all the Superbike riders.
That's a good podcast actually for people that don't know. Listen to that, and then you'll find out what his injuries were, because he should have parked it a lot earlier in the year. But another rider who was making great progress, and you forget about this big blob of time in Fraser's career where he hasn't been racing. And to come out and do what he's doing, I think is really, really good. And he's got some talent as Fraser. So on his day, another one. I mean, listen to what a grid. Sorry.
It's incredible.
We have forgotten another one.
Go on.
My colleague, Michael Laverty, has got a team in BSB this year.
Did I put the...
We didn't mention Richard Kerr.
We have got Richard Kerr as well. Do you know what? I thought I'd got everybody. Well, it's Jamie Van Sickler. Give Jamie a shout as well at the Tag Honda team as well. He's making progress slowly but surely. He had injuries last year that he struggled to get over, but JVS will be back on the bike this year. And then Richard Kerr coming in for MLAV, which came in late when I did the notes. I didn't do too bad, let's be fair. But Richard Kerr, Superstock champion from the end of 2023.
Yeah.
Away racing in America last year, stood in for Rory Skinner at Thruxton, if I remember right. Stood in a couple of times, maybe at least once
he had a couple
on the Taz bike.
Yeah, a couple of rides on the Taz BMW. He's a lovely lad. I think
so. I can do it without notes. I just didn't have them written down.
Oh, stop making it skilly. Put the spade away.
Sorry, boys.
No, Richard Kerr. There's an argument for saying that 2023 Superstock season, both Dan Linfoot and Richard Kerr should be on bikes in British Superbikes, in my opinion. So nice to see that Richard's got his chance. I don't actually know what more Michael Laverty can do to squeeze into his schedule. I know he's always had a desire to have a BSB team. He's obviously got a fondness for the Paddock. He had so much success here.
Sure.
But I don't think that they're looking for anything too special to begin with. Richard's got to get used to the Superbike. It's steady away. It's going to be a small start and then hopefully builds into something. But Richard's just going to go out there, build some experience. But yeah, it's good to see. He is a proper operator, is Michael Laverty. And that team will build, I'm sure, into the future to be one of the teams to go to in the future as well.
It will be interesting to see where it is in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
3 years' time.
Yeah.
The time is moving on. And as it is for us, I just want to rattle through our Patreon questions. Thank you for the recap, mate. And thank you for saving my blushes there, because I'd have been taken around the back and had a kick in from Gary Winfield and everybody else at Tag, and from MLav himself. So thank you, mate. We'll get on to our predictions after this. But if you have a look in the description below, click more. Down there is the link to our Patreon page where you can help the show out on a monthly basis. You get early access to the shows. You also get a chance to ask the guests of our questions of our guests, depending on which tier you go for. And we have questions to go in already. So first up, Simon Breeze. Do you guys see the Superbike class in its current form continuing for much longer? And if not, what do you see as the headline class potentially?
I think that Stuart's across it and he knows exactly what needs to happen. I don't think in 5 years' time we'll be talking and it'll be as it is. What it will be exactly, I don't know. It would not surprise me if it's the next gen super sport that becomes superbikes, because those bikes are doing lap times now that were the same as superbikes back in the past. They look the same. They sound just as good. None of us really care about lap records. I mean, don't get me wrong, you got a lap record. It's something to be happy about, but that's not why we go racing. We go racing to watch good racing, safe racing, close racing, and something entertaining. So that's probably a guess where I'd say, but I don't know. It's not for me to know at the moment. But I can't imagine that Stuart and his team aren't already making plans about what's coming for the future. It's not immediate by any stretch, but
no.
I mean, if we're still here in 5 years' time, it's the same as it is, I'd be quite surprised. But
me too, because I think with the way that manufacturers and what they're making now, and the 1,000cc sports bikes and the market for it as well, the landscape's changing dramatically year on year. So it's
the next gen super sport bikes are affordable, so
yes.
You can see people riding them. I've just come from Jerez, where there was over 200,000 people over the course of the weekend, and bikes. I've never seen so many bikes on the road. It felt like anyone that had a bike in Spain was on them. And what were all the bikes? They were all Honda Africa, Twin Africas, GSs, Multistradas. They're all adventure bikes.
Yeah,
you won't see a Panigale rolling by you going into the circuit. You would see, funnily enough, some older super sport bikes and some older superbikes and some old GSXR. So yeah, that's kind of it. It fits, I think, across the board. That works. So that would be my guess.
It's evolution. If you stand still, you're going to get left behind. But there's some great bikes coming out: Yamaha R9s, the Triumphs, the Ducatis.
Absolutely.
And if they're a couple of seconds a lap slower than where we are now, to the naked eye, it's just great racing.
No, but
Put
then
two
it means
bikes
we
on a
can
circuit.
stay racing at these brilliant circuits that we
exactly right.
And that's key.
Yeah, exactly. It brings that angle into it as well, which is really important. And one last one from Simon for Steve. What's your favorite track and corner, please? And there's an ex-racer. You could look at it from both.
It
must be said that you are an ex-racer. That maybe some people don't realize that.
I had a dabble. Didn't go particularly well, hence why I talk about it now instead.
Done more than I have, mate. You've been out there and you've done it.
So are we talking just UK, are we, or
your favorite? You've commentated in World Superbikes, you've commentated at MotoGP, you commentated at BSB and the TT. You've got a huge amount of experience from trackside. So wherever your favorite track and corner is.
My favorite corner to commentate on and just to watch, I think in general, there's a couple. There's a Stoner corner in Phillip Island, and the last left at Valencia. I love watching bikes screaming around there. Brilliant. Although the rest of Valencia can be just thrown away because I think the rest of the circuit's rubbish. In the UK, I'd say probably Craig Declares, Donington.
Great choices.
Yeah, spectacular. Seeing them come out of Hollywood and down into Craners, yeah, nothing better.
There's a little gap in the fence at Donington Park, and I'm going to regret saying this because the next time I go there, there'll be a crowd of people. You can, if you get the right part of Hollywood, it's such a great view through the fence because the fence is split for the marshal access, and it looks right at the apex of Hollywood. And to watch from there as they disappear, and you watch them disappear off down the hill, is just incredible.
Yeah, it's
absolutely fascinating.
One of the good things, we do get an opportunity to sometimes go out and have a look around at some of the sessions because we don't cover every single session. And I spent a bit of time over at Hollywood last year. It's brilliant. I'm surprised there aren't more people that head over to that part. I'd love to see the banking at Donington all full of fans again. I'm sure with the racing that we've got, we'll see a bit more of that. But yeah, it's a good spot to watch from here.
I enjoy it. Thank you for that, Simon. Chris Turner, the series goes from strength to strength, but not many young riders getting their opportunity to get onto a top BSB ride. Yes, Joe Talbot had the opportunity, but that fell through. Why don't the top teams set up feeder teams in Superstock and Supersport?
Oh, it's a good question. First of all, a quick nod to Joe Talbot, because I feel desperately sorry for him and his situation. But I'm delighted that he's got an opportunity to still race this year and showcase his talents, and he'll be back in BSB soon. I still think that young riders get an opportunity to come through in BSB, but like we said earlier, to be competitive in BSB, you need experience. And so, you need a few years to cut your teeth before you're given the big bike to come and rattle around. There'll be riders, younger riders, on the radar of every single team. Scott Swan was on a number of teams' lists coming into the season, and they'll be keeping a close eye on it. And the reason why some of the teams haven't got feeder teams, they can't afford them. We
literally money.
We are living in a time at the moment which is really, really difficult. And the cost of running teams, I'm sure they'd love to have some feeder teams. We'd love to see some feeder teams as well. So if it was affordable, I think you'd see it, but I think it's just money.
I couldn't agree more. We're at a time now where I don't think it's ever been more difficult for teams and riders to raise funds to go racing, sponsorship or otherwise. That we're fortunate that we've got a full grid of Superbike, we've got a full grid of Supersport. The support classes are well subscribed this year already. Hopefully they'll all last the season. And I think it's testament to the series that's got people there and the sponsors and the teams putting it all together, because it's not cheap to go racing.
No, it's not cheap at all. But I mean, listen, if we got brilliant racing like we had last year, it's definitely, you can already see. I think I saw something on Twitter, or X as it's now known as, about the BSB being broadcast in far more countries next year than it was. That's going to help as well. That's going to attract interest in terms of sponsors, which will help riders, which will help teams, which will help us. Because without the backing, we're not going racing. We're not going to get this amazing sport that we love. So, hopefully that helps.
And I echo your thoughts on Joe Talbot as well. I had a good long chat with him on Wednesday evening at the test. He's still stinging a little bit, but I think that move to Dave Binch and Binch Racing on the Ducati is a great move for him. You don't know what the future holds, like we said, with the Superbike class. So it could be a masterstroke at some point if he has a couple of seasons there. He's a super talent. He's hurting that he didn't get the Superbike ride that he's been waiting all winter for, but sadly that's racing, and sometimes these things do come and bite you. It's how you recover from them that's important. And I think once he gets his head around it and he gets his first couple of tests on that Ducati, he'll realize it at the time it's not quite the be all and end all, because he's got 15, 20 years left in this sport. So
yeah,
his time.
I don't think this is going to hurt him. I think I can see why it's going to sting, but I don't actually think that this is a bad thing at all. I can see some positives coming out of it for a number of different reasons. We haven't got time to talk about it now, but I mean, what a championship British Supersport's going to be as well. I mean, it's back to its best. When you look at the runners and riders in that, I'm looking forward to covering that. So yeah, exciting.
Yep, agreed completely. It is a full podcast on its own for the guys that are in there. Maggie Day, do you think that sponsors pulling out of the series that we've already seen could potentially become a huge problem, or was it just an individual thing?
Well, I hope it doesn't.
I think referring to maybe the OMG sponsor that didn't quite cross the line with them.
Well, I think we know now that there were sort of exceptional reasons as to why this particular occurrence happened. But listen, it probably isn't going to be the last team where a sponsor drops out. Unfortunately, that's just the climate that we're in. But I think it's also, again, there is money out there. And, there are people that genuinely are interested in the sport that want to get in and want to find a way. And sometimes they actually find it difficult to know where to start. Yeah. There are other people out there with money that don't even know that they're in love with BSB yet, because they've not set foot in the championship. And so
nice. I like that. That's a great way to look at it.
But ultimately, we've got to do our best to put the show on the road and do what we can to elevate these riders, to make them more personable. We've got some amazing characters, and they're all bloody good on motorbikes, and they put on a fantastic show. So the more that is out there on TV, on social media, and we get more races like we have, there'll be more interest. So I hope that we have a bit of a brighter future. So I'm going to look at that sort of glass half full rather than glass half empty for now.
No question. Same for me. We don't know who's out there at this point. But thank you, Maggie. Final 2 questions from Craig Lowe. Is the propensity of one-rider setups in BSB a long-term worry for the series?
Sorry, say that again.
Is the propensity of one-rider setups in BSB a long-term worry for the series?
No, not at all.
No, I think it's a great thing.
No, because
it's cost-effective.
We've just talked about the budget. I mean, it's a rider can have a total focus around them. The team can afford it more. It means they can have more spares, potentially. Less people to have to cart around the country and less tyres. I mean, the list goes on in terms of being able to afford it. And it doesn't need to be a 2-man team to work. And, you could then say, well, what happens if one of the riders gets injured? Well, guess what? There's a queue of riders at the back of the garage that are itching.
Not me, but excuse me, I'll ride it.
They're itching.
As soon as a rider is declared unfit, a team owner or a team manager's phone starts pinging straight away.
Yeah, of course it does.
I can be there tomorrow. I've got my leathers. I've got my helmet. It's the nature of the sport. It's just how it all works out. But also it's an opportunity for sponsors that can come in, and it's not, say, £500,000 for a 2-rider team. It's 250. The budget can be more achievable for a 1-rider team, therefore opening up more opportunities for sponsors as well.
Totally agree. If we were going into this season and there were 26 one-bike operations, I would not be upset. It would not change my feelings at all. It wouldn't be bad for the sport. I'm delighted that there are some 2-bike teams, obviously, because, there's some classic teams there, but I'm not worried about it at all.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And also, the last one from Craig, if we do this as... well, there's only one way. I was going to go for just the top couple of brands, but who's your tips for top rider, brand by brand?
Oh, my goodness me. I don't want to do this.
Thanks, Craig. No, because that puts us in a really difficult situation. For those of you listening and watching, let us know in the comments who your tip for the championship is this
ask
year.
Me
Put
again,
your top 3 in there,
ask me
and we'll do an aggregate
in October.
I honestly can't, and it's. I think it's the same. I watched another preview this morning that's out there on YouTube, and they were in a similar situation where it is genuinely, at this point in the season, impossible to predict a champion. And that's not sitting on the fence. It's not. You could go, well, it's going to be Brad Ray. Yeah, but look how strong Tommy is. Look how strong Glenn is. Look how strong Kyle is. Danny Kent, Leon Haslam. Tommy, do you know, there's pros and cons for at least 6 riders at this point to be Bennetts British Superbike champion at the end of 2025. And it is so difficult to pick one. And
I understand why people want to get the views and like, who are you going for then? And it's happened a lot at home when I bump into people. Who are you going for? And I just keep on saying the same thing. Like, number one, I don't actually care who it is. I'll be delighted for them. Number two, I genuinely have no idea. And I'm not just saying that to try and drag in an audience. I have no idea. I change my mind every day on it. And all you can... No one thinks any better of you if you get it spot on anyway. Just got a load of aggro.
But you're more expected to, as a British Superbike commentator and aficionado of the sport, you're expected to get it right.
Hey, I call the racers. Let the other guys be the extra. I'm just throw them under a bus instead. No, I know that we're going to have some great racing, and I genuinely don't even have a hunch. The last couple of years, I've had a gut feeling for someone, and they've all been wrong. So.
That really does get you off the hook, doesn't it?
Every year
I'm not predicting it because I'm shit at it.
I'm no good at it. So stop doing it.
No, well, for all of you watching and listening, let us know your thoughts in the comments. You are probably better placed than we are because you have your allegiances, you have your favorites. Let us know who you think and why, more importantly. Let's get some conversation going in the comments below. We'll put it out onto the socials as well. But I know he's got a packed schedule today. You've got so much going on. Steve, thank you, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure, and welcome back to Off Track.
Thank you, mate. No, it's been great. I'm absolutely amazed that my 14-week-old puppy has not interrupted this broadcast. But I'm probably going to walk into the kitchen to do piles of crap. No, it's been great, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Saturday.
I look forward to it, mate. Safe journey across from the Far East, and we'll see you at Oulton Park on Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. BSB is back this weekend. Check your TV listings. It's going to be out there. I know it's on Quest on Monday as well, and you'll hear this man's voice across the weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Steve Day.
Cheers, mate.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. That was such good fun to do. And a massive thank you to Steve for slotting us into his busy schedule after returning from Jerez and getting ready for Oulton Park this coming weekend. It's going to be so great to have the Bennetts British Superbike Championship back. It's been a long winter, as we said, and it'll be great to see some of you there at Oulton Park this coming weekend before we head off to Northern Ireland for the Northwest 200. Next week, it's former World Superbike star Aaron Slight. It's a chat you really don't want to miss. Aaron's on great form, and it was a real privilege to have him on the show. So next Wednesday from 6 a.m, the brilliant Aaron Slight. That's it. I'm off to get packed for Oulton Park and the Northwest 200. We'll see some of you there, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you so very much for watching, and please do look after yourself. Bye-bye.